The rhythm of healing, the octaves method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at a play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make. In strength and in stillness, our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 5 of the Trauma and Social Work Podcast. I am KJ Alexander here with my co-host, Tonya Octave, and today we have a lot of important information to dive into. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and let Tonya tell a little bit more about herself and what this podcast is about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tonya Octave, and we are going into Season 5 of Trauma and Social Work Podcasts, where we will be discussing and diving deep into my book called Heal the Mind, 7 Strategies Towards Mental Wellness, Happiness, and Success, Exploring Trauma, Mental Wellness, and Ways to Live a More Balanced Life. And before we begin, just a simple reminder that this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended for medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Although I'm a licensed professional, this is not a formal type of treatment. We may talk about things like hypnosis and meditation and things that we would do in a therapeutic, from a therapeutic perspective, but it's not a form of treatment. For individual questions about your wellness, your happiness, and your success, please seek out a professional. And if you are experiencing a mental health crisis, do call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.
Great, awesome. That was amazing. So with that being said, I want to make sure I tell the audience, if you haven't already, follow this page on Spotify, YouTube, and any other platforms we post episodes on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming episodes in the future. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is the Trauma and Social Work Podcast. My name is KJ Alexander, and I'm joined once again with my co-host, Tonya Octave. And today we are continuing our discussion of the book, Heal Thy Mind. And for today's episode, we're going to pick up where we left off, Chapter 3, discussing some different therapy techniques. And I want to start this episode off talking again about play therapy. And you have a section in the book detailing why play therapy works. So I want to go ahead and share that. So on the surface, it appears that play therapy is only about playing games, something like family game night. However, playing in treatment is different. The language and interventions are therapeutic. The goal in family game night may be to have fun, compete, and spend time together. The purpose of therapy is to facilitate healing, gain access to the child's inner world, and assist the child in feeling safe. Play therapy develops a sense of self acceptance in the child, and this safe and trusting relationship helps access the child's inner world. And after that, you go ahead and list a few reasons why play therapy is effective. And I was wondering if at this time you can kind of give your personal opinion, maybe if there's a few that stand out to you more than others. But what are some of the reasons you want to highlight why play therapy is so effective?
It's just, particularly in terms of working with kids, and I say that like from birth to 25 when I talk about kids,
Yeah.
um, that this is how language is communicated. We, coming from an adult mind, want to say, that the verbal expression is essential, and it is important in terms of survival to be able to communicate, to learn the language of a culture and a community, to navigate relationships and survive through it. But the most authentic way that we all communicated coming into the world was through our play. That's how it really expressed what was going on internal for us. And that is still done even as an adults, because when adults play, you might see these other things kind of show up. So I'll give some examples. You have your friends over for like a game night. For guys, that might be not necessarily having them over, but maybe logging onto a video game at the same time. For girls, it might be having like your girlfriends coming over, like for dinner or something like that. So, like where there's a group of your peers kind of coming over. And then if you notice like competition gets involved, oh, there's other parts of the personality you might see come up. So, someone who is quiet, you might see aggression. And you're like,
Mm.
oh, I've never seen that part of the personality come out. Someone who's quiet, you might see seductiveness or sexuality or something manifested in terms of sexual aggression coming out. You're like, oh, I never saw that before kind of come out. So you see that play can bring out these other things that I'm not going to say aren't there. They're just there internally, that allows for maybe this way of expressing it. And sometimes that can be a socially acceptable way to express things like sexual aggression or violence, things like that. Um, there's also like this superpower of emotional regulation, and that play really helps us to manage these big feelings, even as kids, when you're working on things like a temper tantrum, maybe where anger is manifesting and the parent is having a difficult time kind of managing the child's anger. And so, like, these big emotions come up, big emotions of sadness where the kid is crying all the time, and it's difficult for the parent to kind of really kind of try to provide support or kind of support their child or kind of have them negotiate it. So, like, these big emotions that are difficult for other people to imagine, you can see that kind of displayed in terms of play, and how we can kind of direct that in more socially acceptable ways. So it's not okay to hit a sibling. Maybe we can demonstrate how it's okay to hit a pillow when we're
Mm.
upset. It's not okay to verbally say mean things to a parent, but maybe we can write down those things and tear up that paper. Maybe that's a more appropriate way of managing it. So play can be helpful in terms of using tools. It also encourages like this creativity, this imagination, where a child can kind of come up with their own solutions with things that they're already doing. Even in an adult way, like a play therapy can allow the adult to find more creative ways to express, like the way of managing these big emotions. Play therapy is also a safe place to process feelings like trauma and to process things that may be difficult in non-threatening ways. So for a teenager who is maybe depressed and talking about wanting to hurt themselves, like how can we redirect that energy using a play technique so that the individual moves those suicidal thoughts to something that's more productive for them, something that's more helpful, as a way for maybe they don't feel like they're being heard. And so they're internalizing the expression. And so how we move from them internalizing it to expressing it in an external way, and then the suicidal thoughts kind of dissipate. And that's really why you also need someone who's trained in terms of working with kids or young adults in that way. But that it can be, like I think about it in how you can integrate play in a playful way. And I think about think of it like when you were a kid going into the toy store. And it's harder now because most of our toy stores are online, but you at least got to experience, I think it was Toys R Us, going into a toy store and being mesmerized by all the different things that drew your attention.
Yeah.
The action figures, the wrestlers, the knives and the guns, the things that in your mind as a 7-year-old boy you were drawn to in terms of attention. There was something on a subconscious level that made these things more appeasing to you. And then the things that you kind of walked by, the dolls, the pink stuff, the cooking things, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so that tells you a little bit about how you were showing up in the world subconsciously, because that was what was innate in you. It drew your attention to particular areas and you dismissed particular areas. It's still happening now. But if you think about it as a toy, like going into a toy store, I'm going to have to come up with another analogy because kids don't do toy stories as much. But how, on a subconscious way, you can relate to that, right? You can relate to that, KJ, in a subconscious way.
Yeah,
Think about it
absolutely.
even as an adult. Our attention is drawn to certain things. Use social media. When you are thinking about plane crashes, are you drawing that attention or are you scrolling through it? Are you thinking about I think we had the Grammys? Are you scrolling through it, or are particular stories drawing your attention as it drew your attention when you were a kid and going to the toy store? That tells us about subconscious material. That's why play therapy is so helpful and universal, outside of it just being for people under 25, that we can still use play. We can come up with vision boards, but maybe our vision boards isn't a place where we're going, but maybe we're creating a vision board on our desktop computer. Or maybe we're doing a vision board that we want to be reminded of something that's healthy, something that's useful, that's moving us in the direction on our screensaver on our phone. And how we can use these play techniques, even as adults, to move us in the direction that we want to be in. So if we say, I don't want to be around negative people, how can we use a play tool to redirect that? So we move away from the thought that I don't want to be around negativity to what I want. And the want is, I want to be around positivity. And so if that becomes the desire, if that becomes the motivation, then how do we use play? So then how can I play in a more positive way? How can I put play activities? If I want to be around positive people, then I'm going to have to start playing like positive people play. And so how do people play who are positive? Maybe there's healthy competition. So maybe I'm not doing, I don't know if the Olympics would be healthy, but maybe I'm not doing a Olympic training or something where there's like a financial motivation. But maybe I'm participating in a volunteering group where I'm doing a walkathon for a cause. That can be playful because it's helping me move my body. And I'm sending myself these messages with this is how I want to show up. And then it like is a win-win because maybe I have to eat healthy in order to sustain myself for doing a 5-mile walk. And maybe I have to get to bed the night before. That's a win for me too, because that's helping me keep my hormones and my cortisol and my melatonin. We've talked about that,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm getting my steps. So I'm moving my body throughout the day. And that being playful is integrating the octaves method, all of this stuff that we're talking about. And then I'm using play as a tool to help with that integration. So it's maybe moving from the competitive, I have to win you because there can only be one winner. We're moving from that thought to the compassion competitive state where we're all winners because we're all healthy at the end of the day. And the competition is how many people can I get to show up on my team, to join the race with me, to participate in a 5-mile walk, to raise money to support research for kids who are suffering through cancer. And then along the way, I'm not only am I doing the octaves method, but now I have 4 of my friends coming along with me as we move our body and we're eating healthy and we're drinking herbal tea.
Mm-hmm.
And we're engaged in conversations about moving in a healthy way and talking about the good stuff happening in our life and the things that we appreciate and love about all of our relationships. And we're moving in that direction. Then we've just created a whole experience where we've met our goal. And we're moving towards our goal because the original goal, I don't know if you remembered along that thought process, was what? I said, I don't want to be around negative people. But we've shifted that. We even forgot that that was the goal. We've shifted it because all we wanted was positivity in our life, which is what we created in its own manifesting way because of the energy that we give out. Now I'm adding a little bit of quantum physics and the theory of like the exchange of energy and how we can create things in our own universe. But play therapy in its own way gets us there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a very, very insightful way to put that.
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Who's your superhero?
My real life superhero.
I don't know. What does that even mean to you when I ask it? Whatever it means, what is your superhero? And for the audience, think of it when I ask. It doesn't matter. Just think of what that question means to you. What is your superhero? For you, you'll have to share a little bit in order to engage in the conversation.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, yeah, I would say, in my opinion, I would say my mom. You are my superhero for the most part. I mean, just as far as, yeah, I mean, just as far as somebody who's been there for me, you know, and I would also, you know, throw my dad in there and other family members at times, definitely. But as far as like, I don't know if the term superhero is appropriate, but definitely somebody who goes above and beyond the normal. But you know, I think most people probably feel that way about at least one of their parents, if not both.
And when you think about, so when, maybe we should think about super, there's a term. Remember we talk about it takes a village to raise a family, and we talk about interdependence and not independence. So for the listening audience, you have to catch up on the prior stuff to stay consistent with the dialogue. Because when we flow, we flow. And when we get in our flow, we're in our flow. And so maybe it's a team of heroes. And maybe it's heroes meaning masculine and feminine and beyond gender, beyond race, maybe even beyond physical form. And that you have some heroes that you can tap into. And so the play therapy part is, when life is difficult, what would your team of heroes do? And that may be for you when maybe there is a beat that you can't quite get, or a note you can't figure out, or a message that's quite not coming through. Maybe for you, it's tapping into your father's energy. And maybe when it's like, ooh, this relationship is kind of getting under my skin and I'm starting to feel some way. Maybe it's the playfulness of your mother that you tap into. And maybe when it's like, ooh, I felt like my boundary's getting a little close. Maybe I need to cross up. Maybe it's the other masculine energies that you type into. Or maybe you need to be a little bit more compassionate. So maybe you need to tap into more of those feminine energies. And that maybe there's a team of heroes that you have behind you to help navigate you in life. And that you can be playful with this idea, because we're still working on a subconscious way, just like it was being a little kid going into the store and seeing Toys R Us and being mapped and drawn to those specific aisles and dismissing those other aisles. Because play therapy is subconscious work. It is also unconscious work. And if you want to know the difference between the two, I recorded a beautiful video talking about it on YouTube. Go look at it.
Absolutely. I definitely would recommend people check out that video as well. So I did want to ask you regarding play therapy. We talk a lot about collaboration and how play therapy involves, participants who are willing to do things that may not be necessarily usual in typical therapy. But what role does the collaboration in play therapy, and what role does it play, and how can someone be a better active participant in the process to ensure they were able to meet their own personal needs?
It is a collaboration. It is a joint venture. It is a beautiful relationship where there are three things going on: your experience, the clinician's experience, and the integration of the two. And how do you know when things are moving in the direction that it needs to? So there's some practical things. One, I've mentioned the idea, we probably should just do a podcast on handwriting, because handwriting is a tool that can be used to tell you how life is progressing. There are certain things with certain letters that tell us of stuff. Very interesting, like, oh, this person should not be trusted. This person has a lot of love to give. Ooh, this person tends to focus on others and not on themselves. So handwriting tells a lot of things. Everybody don't want to always want to reveal some of those subconscious things. You get a little hesitant with that. And so handwriting can be a tool. Dream analysis is a beautiful tool. All of these tools are subconscious material that tells us that we are venting out things in the subconscious mind that no longer serves us, that we need to get rid of. We don't need to hold on to some of this junk anymore. Oftentimes we hold on to too much. And so dream analysis interpretation can be a tool that you could work with someone in terms of that. I've done some beautiful work using dream analysis. And Mo, you talk about having aha moments. Those have been some aha moments in my life. I'm like, whoa, where did this come from? You know where it came from? It came from inside of me, working with someone who was experienced, who I used as a guide to get me to discover the stuff that was already inside of me. So there are some practical tools that we can use, things to help us along the way to says, oh yeah, therapy is working because this, and that. Also, working with someone who's pretty skilled and trained can help navigate that because they can communicate what they're seeing, that they're also kind of there, not just kind of listening, but they're also an active participant in the conversation. So there's some tools that you can know other than just waking up and saying that I think that it's working. Ask the person you're working with. I don't know if it's working. What do you see? Because maybe they're seeing some things and experience some things that you're not necessarily consciously aware of, in tune with, noticing at the time that this stuff is kind of helpful in navigating. I'm not sure if I got exactly to the question because I felt like kind of like how people always kind of say, well, I don't know if therapy is working. That's kind of why I wanted to add that into the conversation. Was there another part that you think might be helpful?
Yeah, sure. No, I think you answered the question very well, and it just sounds like to me, for play therapy to be most effective, it does require a lot of give and take from between the therapist and the patient as well. So it helps to go into it with a positive mindset. Um, I'm sure in your experiences, you've had cases where certain people may not be as willing to open up at first, but after a few sessions of play therapy, they're able to let their guard down a little bit more and expose their true feelings more transparently. So I think with that being said, it's important to kind of highlight that this is something that may not be for everybody. But if you are the type of person that feels like you may benefit from this style of therapy, go into it with the mindset of being positive and open to new things that maybe you're not used to seeing or maybe not come to your mind when you first think of therapy. So yeah, just being kind of open to that and also being a person who can also tap into that child like state and not necessarily feel like just because they're a certain age they can't participate in play therapy when ultimately this is something that could be beneficial for a person of any age.
You like sports and you watch sports, you participate in sports in some capacity. What is the one word that you would say when you have when you want to know something more about sports? What is the feeling that it comes up for you? What does it invoke in you when you want to learn more about a particular athlete or sport or something like that?
um I would say mainly for me is just curiosity
Okay,
and
stop.
yeah.
That's it. Come to a place of curiosity about yourself. That's it. We do it all the time with everything else. And I think that's what you and I are kind of expressing and learning in this journey together that we travel in. That our curiosity is going to guide us to where we need. But don't get
Yeah.
distracted. I'm going to go back to the 7-year-old boy in the toy store who mom says, you can't play with those boy toys over there because I'm a feminist. You better go play with these dolls and you better go learn how to use the easy bake oven and get a Ken doll. Come from a place of curiosity because for kids, and I believe this is a struggle that we all experience as we grow up, our curiosity is taken from inside of us. It's taken away. We can no longer have the curiosity of being the kid, of seeing all these beautiful toys and all the joys that they could bring us in life or what we kind of think or perceive. That curiosity is taken from us as we get older because we're told you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, think this way, be this way, show up this way. You can't be like that. And I'm saying, I don't know. But a part of figuring out your journey in life, and I mean not you, KJ, but your journey, meaning everybody's journey in life,
Yeah.
is to come from a place of curiosity. That's it.
Absolutely.
You just said it.
Absolutely. Very simplistic, but I think also very powerful at the same time.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wanted to continue our discussion. Before we close out here, if we could maybe touch on a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy. So I'll go ahead and read the first section real quick. So besides implementing play therapy to help patients, I use cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. CBT helps a person to understand their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This modality is based on discovering faulty and negative thinking patterns. Some of these thinking and behavioral patterns are learned from parents, and others are learned in the child's environment. The idea is to identify thinking and behavioral errors and then learn techniques to unlearn these patterns and replace them with helpful and positive thinking patterns. By learning to control thoughts, individuals can gain the ability to direct their thoughts in a particular way. And I'll go ahead and pause right there for a moment. But you mentioned in that section how, for this particular modality of therapy, um, a person is required to learn techniques and also unlearn patterns and replace them with positive thinking patterns. So I kind of wanted you to, if you could, give a little background on cognitive behavioral therapy. Who do you think is the typical right person for this style of therapy? And what should a person be looking to expect if this is the route they want to choose to go?
So what I'll do is for my listening audience, I'm going to record 3 additional videos on YouTube, which will be up in a few weeks. One will be just on play therapy, one will be on cognitive behavioral, and one will be on psychodynamic, kind of determining the difference between the three, so that it's an easy way in terms of referencing where someone may feel guided towards. Um, and so cognitive behavioral therapy is looking at the thoughts, how those thoughts can be connected to our behavior, and how the behavior is kind of in a parallel process with what we're expressing in terms of our emotions. And I'll even, maybe for our next video, I want to go over a little bit more in detail what that actually looks like in terms of what one would be working on in cognitive behavioral therapy. But how you know that it might be a place for you is if you like to talk. If you're one who kind of expresses themselves more verbally, if you want to identify some maybe cognitive errors that are occurring. So there may be things like are all, never, this always happens to me, I am always alone, um, n-
Yeah,
uh, I never get an opportunity to show how great I am or something like that. So there's always this like black and white thinking. And so if you notice that you have a tendency in terms of the thought patterns and want to work with those thought patterns, cognitive behavioral therapy could be a great option. Also, if you're one that has identified, it seems like I'm the negative person in the friend group. It seems like I'm the person who's always complaining about things, and you want to work on moving that thought pattern to a more positive, more optimistic, more freeing way of thinking, then you're working with the structure of it. Also, if you're not sure if you want to kind of spend a year or 2 years working with someone, then cognitive behavioral, usually when I'm working with clients, we're usually doing cognitive behavioral work the first year, and I'll dabble in some psychodynamic techniques as long as I'm seeing how the ego feels about that. And so cognitive is a good way just to start, like we talked about, building rapport, developing the relationship, testing to see whether or not this person is going to be trustworthy, whether or not this person is showing up in honest ways, if this person can be dependable, if this person can manage my stuff. Like if I give this person all of my pain and sorrow, is that going to like tear them up? Are they going to become depressed, or can they manage it? Or, like, are they going to bring their stuff into our sessions? And so cognitive behavioral, if you're a thinker, if you tend to use a defense mechanism like rationalization or intellectualization, those are also, that might be your entry point. I consider cognitive behavioral maybe as an entry point into the therapeutic process. Like, I think I kind of want to test this process. I kind of heard some stuff about it on social media. I kind of feel like some people in my community are encouraging it, or at least supporting me navigate the process. Cognitive behavioral can be a great tool. So that's what I'll do. I'll record the 3 additional videos that can be accessed on YouTube. And then for our next session, we'll maybe spend some more time talking about cognitive behavioral, and I'll just demonstrate what that even looks like in a very simple way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely continue our discussion on this topic in our next episode. But it looks like that is about the time we have for today. Is there any information you want to leave the audience with before we close out?
I think we have filled a lot of stuff going on here, and I just
Absolutely.
say breathe and take it in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think this what we want to do with this podcast is really give people just kind of bits and pieces of information they can kind of take on their own time, and when they are finally ready to make a decision, they'll be well informed in that decision.
Yes.
So that is definitely the goal of this podcast. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in to today's episode. That is all the time we have. If you haven't already, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll have more videos coming in the future. With that being said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in once again. That is all the time we have. Until next time, be safe and bye-bye.
Thanks. Wraps up another episode. I hope today's discussion provided clarity and tools you can use in your daily life. If you're ready to take the next step in the healing journey, I'd love to connect. Head over to my website to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. It is a great opportunity to ask questions and see how we can work together. And while you're there, download my complimentary workbook designed to help you reflect, grow, and move towards mental wellness, happiness, and success. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. The Rhythm of Healing, the Octaves Method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at a play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make, in strength and in stillness our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.